Good morning, and I'm out in my backyard, and it's a little dark here. I started out good because I was out in the where there was whatever. There's no sunlight out yet, but there was some light. And then it started raining on me about 5 minutes into the video, and I'm not smart enough to know how to cut it and put them together. So I'm starting over here, a little bit under the roof. I just moved up some, so I understand it's a little dark, but you can figure it out. And I'm a little quieter than normal. I don't want to be a bother to the neighbors and have them wonder what I'm listening to or whatever over here. But anyhow, nobody's up and around yet anyway. But welcome. Good to have a few minutes together. And just thinking about the rain just starting on sprinkling, not raining, just sprinkle a little bit, and the drama that our world, especially California. California loves drama now. We've got blossoms on my apricot tree behind me, and they're starting on the plums and the peach trees, and we got some great things. We got snow in the mountains, too much for some of our people, and there's some unbelievable amounts of snow. But we're in a culture, I think, all across the country with the media like it is, but especially out here in California. Oh, we love drama. We just love, and it just kills me. I think just suck it up and deal with it. Now, when it's my problem, then it's different. But we've trained a generation to panic. Someone calls me a name, someone's not nice to me, and it's just it's horrible. So my spouse disappointed me. Oh, really? Yeah, I don't know anybody that's not been disappointed by their spouse to some extent. And and not to be cold, I think we ought to be compassionate, but I don't think anybody ought to be looking for compassion. And that's just me. But we're going to see it's Bible in a minute. This thing of drama. In California, we have a storm like anybody else does around the country. We go crazy. I mean, the Midwest and the South used to, winds and rain and heavy rains, but we get a sprinkle and there's a flood watch desk open at the news, and one tree falls over, and the news covers it from every angle possible because they found one tree that fell down, and of course it hit something because we're a city, and it's just crazy, just craziness. And but we tend to love drama. I want to show you God's perspective toward drama. And as parents, we ought to keep an evenness, temperance, this steadiness that we ought to strive for. None of us are perfect at it, and I guarantee you I'm not. But in our home, the girls we had 2 boys and 2 girls. When the girls get junior high school, there'll be some days they just didn't feel good. I don't feel good, Mom. I don't want to get up and go to school. No problem. Get up, get dressed, eat your breakfast, get completely ready to go. If you still don't feel good, then you can go back to bed. Well, by the time they did that, they say, well, I just will go to school. And that's real life, because when you're a mother or when you have a job, you got to get up and take care of business and go do what you got to do and not feeling good. But we've created this culture where, you don't feel good or you're having a problem. And, some of you don't understand there is a don't call in sick, crawl in sick mentality in America forever. And you just be at work. And just deal with your sickness and stay away from people or whatever. I was in the pulpit. I remember years ago. I had the stomach flu, and I just went to the pulpit with a plastic bag and a paper bag or whatever under the pulpit. And if I had to throw up, I was going to go throw up in the bag and I'm going to keep preaching. Now I've got staff that can cover for me, but in those days it was just me. And you just do what you got to do, and don't panic and don't have a fit about everything, and we'll see that in a minute in the scriptures. But when we start talking about like child training children when kids are growing up, our kids, maybe there'd be something on the plate they didn't like to eat. Well, we were of the persuasion you eat what Mom and Dad tell you to eat, and we're not totally insensitive to their needs or whatever. But when they were first learning to what they liked and didn't like, they're going to eat what's on the plate, and sit there long enough, you figure, I'm going to have to eat this. And then they gag on something and spit up something a little bit in the plate. My wife would just pick the plate up, go to the sink, rinse it off, put some more food in the plate, bring it back, and every time they ate it. When they realized there's no choice, I've got to do this. And my girls, they said, they got to college in dormitory, they said, Daddy, you won't even believe these people. The doctor gave them medicine and they can't take it because it tastes bad. And we're having to coax our roommates to take their medicine because it's hard to swallow a pill and whatever. And my girls are mocking these, not outwardly, but to us, mocking these other dorm girls who couldn't do something hard. And I'm thinking, yeah, thank God for my wife. We taught our kids to do hard things. And I remember my son Josh, we were out, I don't know, we were doing yard work, mowing, weed eating, whatever. And we've always, this is the smallest place we've ever had. We've got I don't know what we have here, a third to a half an acre or something. But we've always had acreage, and I like land. I think land is good for raising children. And if you have little kids, I'd pray that God to get you some elbow room and a place to work and to do things and plant a garden, have a couple chickens or whatever. But at least dogs that are real dogs, not these little tiny things. But Josh got something in his eye, and we realized it was something. It was not just a little leaf that's gonna you're gonna pull it out, but and so it was a piece of metal stuck in his eyeball itself. And so I tossed him in the car and went to this doctor and went to that doctor and got it pulled out. That's life. He was doing something as a little guy that he shouldn't have been doing. But he had a glass jar that he was going to fill up. I don't know, who knows what it was, but he had a glass jar. At the time we had a pool. So he thought, well, rather than turn the hose on, I'll just go scoop some right out of the pool. He scooped down and he hit the first step in the pool. And the glass jar broke, and this fatty part of his thumb just slit that thing open on that glass. Well, we had to get the glass out of the pool because you don't want to leave that there. We're going to have more problems. And so just wrap that thing up. It'll be all right. And then I take him to the emergency room or urgent care, whatever it was in those days. Well, I got there, we wait and talk to somebody. Finally, this is not your insurance doesn't let you use this place. You need to go to that place. So I went to a second place, and again, he's I don't know, 8 years old maybe. I'm not even sure, but he was little, and he's wrapped up, and it was a big cut. It was deep, and they said, no, can't go here. You'll need to go there. And so the third place, they start working on it. And watching it, nobody panicked. My wife didn't go along. She had kids at home to take care of. I'm quite capable of taking my son to the emergency room or to urgent care and getting it taken care of. Just those things. We don't need to fall apart. And you get trained to do that. That's what boot camp does. You can deal with it. And if you follow any kind of military history, people get shot and people keep fighting. People keep doing their job. You just carry on with the mission. And this soft, wimpy, panic generation and drama, everything's a drama. Girlfriend breaks up with you, boyfriend breaks up with you, and everybody's panicking. That's why we don't have high school or younger boyfriend, girlfriends. Now in college, then we needed them to date because I wanted them out of here. But just think about drama. If you just look at the story of Adam and Eve, and I'm gonna let me just start over here, and let me see if I can just find a passage in the book of Acts here. The Apostle Paul has been arrested, and they start accusing him, and he makes a comment, and they hit him, and oh man, they just they were so mad, and he says in Acts 23, men and brethren, I've lived in all good conscience before God until this day, and the high priest Ananias commanded them that stood by to smite him on the mouth. Then said Paul to him, God shall smite thee, thou whited wall, for sittest thou to judge me after the law, and commandest me to be smitten contrary to the law. Well, that high priest had violated the law. It was against the law for them to hit a Roman citizen without going through proper channels. But as a Jew, he had some religious commitments, and so and he just climbs all over this guy verbally and scolds him. Well, then the soldier comes along and says, revilest thou God's high priest? And Paul said, I wist not, brethren, that he was the high priest, for it's written, thou shalt not speak evil of the ruler of thy people. And then he just went on about his business. He didn't panic. All right, okay, we're not going to do that. It was wrong. It happened to him as wrong. But let's just go on. We've got things to deal with here. And life, this world of elbow pads and bicycle helmets and kids not being able to ride a bike anywhere without the parents going along, and you don't want your child out of your sight. I know there's a bunch of predators and evil people around, but somebody's going to have to raise some men and women who can face life. But we make everything a drama. Just everything's a drama in our world. Now, Paul, they had violated the law and how they treated him. He made a comment. He took his religious convictions above his civil rights, and he said, all right, I'll just go ahead and I'm not going to speak evil of the ruler of our people. That was the Bible. But he's dealing with Romans here. They had no business judging him. And he was under Roman law. He had rights, but under the Jewish law, he felt he would submit to the Bible and the Bible principles. And since this was a high priest, all right, go ahead, smite me. But think about how God responds to things. I was reading in Revelation this a couple of days ago, the two witnesses. 3.5 years they preach and preach, and if anybody tries to stop them, fire comes out of their mouth and burns them up. And then finally, after 3 years, God lets them be killed, and they're killed, and people are so happy these guys are dead, and they leave their bodies on the street for 3 days, and after 3 days, God raises them from the dead. And I'm thinking, nobody even cares about these two guys. They've preached righteousness for 3 years, and nobody cares. And their body is laying there, and you know what? God didn't care either. This is the plan. Now work your part, play your part. And they weren't. Their spirit wasn't there anyway, right? If they died, the spirit went to be with the Lord. And but God doesn't worship our body. God uses our body, just like our military and just like our athletic world. And in this crazy world, people want to outlaw dog sledding in Alaska. That's what those dogs are for. People want to outlaw horse racing. Those horses live to race. That's what they do. And chickens lay eggs. That's what they do. And we're so concerned. As soon as somebody has an equal respect for God and humanity that they do for an animal, I'll believe they really care. But I don't believe most of these people care. But it's drama about everything. And I found a seagull with a straw in its foot or whatever. I'm not happy about it, but the world shouldn't come to an end. There are a lot of seagulls. And I know right there I'm getting thrown off YouTube or whatever, but I probably won't even post this on YouTube. But this thing of drama. So God's in the Garden of Eden, and Adam and Eve have sinned. And I mean, literally, you talk about a big sin, that's the worst sin that ever happened in humanity. It cursed every human being from Adam and Eve till the millennial kingdom is set up and the eternal kingdom set up. Every man cursed by that decision. And you know what God did? He scolded them, put robes on them, kicked them out of the garden. All right, let's go on. Let's go on with humanity. We're going to have kids. We're going to raise families. We're going to build cities. We're going to have farms. And you don't hear anything more about it. Now, he used it. He explained the doctrine. But think about David. David had committed adultery with Bathsheba, and then he murdered her husband to cover his sin because Bathsheba was expecting, and then he married Bathsheba. He thought he got it all covered. Nathan comes up. God tells Nathan, the preacher, what David did, and he goes to David, little parable, and he says, "Thou art the man." And David is, you'd read about it in Samuel. David's fallen apart, and Nathan says to David, "You've been forgiven, and then let's go on about our business." It was, okay, this is where we are. Uriah is dead. You've now married his former wife, and your baby is going to die, but we've got a kingdom to run. Let's go do our work. Things go wrong. And we've got this, when Joshua and the people of Israel are coming up through Joshua, they're coming up through the east side of the Jordan River. And Moses dies, and he's taken to heaven, and everybody's mourning. I mean, Moses had led them. Moses brought them out of Egypt and led them for 40 years in the wilderness and brought them up through Moab and Edom and brought them up to the Jericho, and then Moses dies. His body's up on Mount Pisgah, and they're mourning. They're just in mourning. And God comes to Joshua and said, "Moses, my servant's dead. Now get going. All right, cry for a little while. Now go. You've got things to do." And we love drama and this social media. Oh, I had this problem, and the whole world hitting the like button or the follow button. That's why some years ago I got off all social media. It irritates me. It's weaponized to destroy people when folks don't know anything. The very idea of trying to destroy somebody with social media is so wrong. When you're in Michigan and someone else is in Seattle, but you're jumping on the bandwagon to destroy someone. What a corrupt, evil, satanic kind of thinking that is. But it's the drama. We want people to be compassionate toward us and feel toward us. And you go through the Bible, And you think about Jesus, the disciples are there in Acts chapter 1, and the disciples are talking to Jesus. He's walked with them for 40 days. Their resurrected Savior, unbelievable. They said, are you at this time going to set up your kingdom? They're ready for the Romans to be run out. Jesus just set his throne up in Jerusalem, and the Jews are going to rule the world, inherit the earth, and all that stuff. All those kingdom promises made to Abraham and David, they're going to come to fruition. And then he's taken up into heaven again. Oh, what's going on with this? And the angels show up and say, hey, what are you doing standing here? Go tell the world Jesus saves. Don't make a bunch of drama about it. If that happened today, they'd post that on every video website imaginable, and they'd make a shrine there where Jesus rose. They'd have movies reenacting the ascension of Jesus. The angels didn't do that. Just come on. Today they have a tomb similar, perhaps the tomb that Jesus was in, but the fact is they don't know where Jesus was buried, and the reason is because there was no drama. The believers were people who focused on the presence of God and the power of God, and let's go do the will of God. And if some things happen, we deal with it. And here the Savior was crucified, and he was buried, and 3 days later he rose from the dead, and years have passed, and no one even knows where he was buried. Now, there's a place, I've been in the Garden of Gethsemane, had a great privilege, someone paid our way, I couldn't have gotten there on my own, but there's a place, and it's symbolic, but they'll tell you they don't know. It's been 2,000 years, and a lot of things change, but the fact is no one made it a sacred, special place. And when you think about the apostles getting jailed and getting beaten, and several times, but at one point early on in the book of Acts, they're arrested, they're beaten, and sent on their way, and they went on their way rejoicing. They were counted worthy to suffer. They didn't make a GoFundMe page. They didn't go on, the social media, tell the world how mistreated I was. They were thrilled. They get to serve Jesus Christ, and again, the Apostle Paul, right where we started here in the book of Acts. All right, you hit me against the law, but since my religious law, since my Bible says I'm not to speak ill of you, I won't, even though I could, and I could appeal to Caesar and to the Roman rulers, but let's just not. And what he did in the passage we're looking at, he realized, hey, those are Sadducees, those are Pharisees. So he realized they have different theological things. He said, I'm called in question of the resurrection of the dead. Pharisees believe in the resurrection, the Sadducees don't. And there's a big old fight there. And one said, well, if he's being arrested for this, he has a right. And he divided the group, and he went on his way. We have got way too much drama. And again, things happen. You put on your dress, getting ready to go to church, and the baby throws up. All right, either wipe it off and go smelly or go change. The world did not come to an end. One of our dear families has a child that has multiple seizures. And after a while, they realize this is the life God's given us, and we're going to live, and God is good. And okay, maybe there's hours and hours of multiple, can't even count how many seizures. Breaks are hard, but we've still got other children, and we've got a job, and we've got a Sunday school class, and we've got a good God, and he knows what's going on. And that doesn't mean we don't go weep over our burdens, but then when we're done weeping, we get up and go on our way, and we do what needs to be done. That story of the Apostle Paul gathering wood after they were shipwrecked on Malta, I think it was, and a snake comes out and bites him, and it says that everybody said, oh, he's going to die. He probably is really evil. And the next thing you know, he shakes it off and goes on about his business, and he didn't die. Then they wanted to worship him, because all stupid people want drama. Paul says, there's no drama. He bit me. God didn't let me die. It's okay. And went on about his business. Now, there's corruption in our political system. Okay, admit it, pray about it, and go win somebody to Christ. Pray for your children, teach a Sunday school class, sing in the church choir, work in the church nursery, but don't ruin your whole life because we have a corrupt government. I think the government was corrupt in Jesus' day, and I think the government was corrupt in John Bunyan's day when he wrote Pilgrim's Progress, 12 years in prison, just because he wouldn't take a license. Yeah, it was crooked, but you know what? You go do the will of God in your world that's difficult. And you can go through the Bible over and over and over, and let's do what we can to not be in panic mode. You read about the early Christians fed to lions. up to through the dark ages, put on a rack, thumb screws, shin screws, trying to get people to deny their faith. You know what they did? When it was all over, they went on about their business. And I love the story of that Anne, her name was Anne Van something up in the Netherlands. And she was a lovely young lady that was a Christian and talked of her faith and witnessed to people. And these Jesuits took her out and said, "We will bury you alive." And she'd already been tortured for months and months. Now they're going to bury her alive. "We will bury you alive if you don't renounce your faith." And they dug the hole right in front of her early morning so no one would see it. And she crawled in the hole herself. And they started putting dirt at her feet to scare her and intimidate her into quitting. And she finally said, "Just hurry up and do it. I can't wait to see my Savior because I'm not changing my mind." And the people writing, of course, the Catholics were good. Most of our martyr records, the Catholics or the Protestants wrote because they were record keepers. And this girl was not intimidated. And they finally did. They completely buried her, and they were so under conviction. The guy writing said when they got her completely buried, they jumped up and down on top of the dirt to force her to be out of breath and to die quicker. They felt terrible for what they had done. They thought sure that they could get her to renounce her faith. And you know what? Stop the drama. Let's just do what we're supposed to do. We need to go to work. We need to get a job. I know. I couldn't tell you how many people in our church have lost a child during pregnancy, a miscarriage, and yet I know one dear couple lost a child during a miscarriage in the early weeks of pregnancy. They just found out they were expecting, and it got them out of church. I mean, they just literally fell apart. Now, everybody's emotions are different, and I'm not uncompassionate toward them. We had that situation in our life, and it is very difficult on the girl, and the guys don't quite grab it. Sometimes very difficult on the guy too, but we are in a culture that is so feeling oriented. Think of our military. You have to get up and do your job. Watch an old Western. There's something to be said for our kids watching old Westerns, not new ones, old. Reading old Louis L'Amour books. Go through and blot out the bad words that are in there now and then, and let them read books where people press on when they're dying of thirst, and press on when they're attacked by Indians, and press on when they're suffering great hardship. Quit the drama, and let's have our life count for God. It's not an easy life, but it's a great life to live for Jesus Christ. And let's take this week and pray about our soul winning tomorrow. Church on Sunday. Let's be in our places. Hey, let's be faithful. Be in church. Be in your spot. Be an usher. Be a nursery worker. Be where you're supposed to be. Do what you're supposed to do. You lost a spouse or a dear loved one or a parent. You're going to be a day, a week, a month. There's going to be some grieving process. But you know what? Let's get back in the saddle. They say you fall off a horse, get back on the horse. Pretty quick. You need to work your way back in there, and everybody's feelings are different. But let's don't wear a "feel bad for me, I've got a problem" sticker. Let's don't raise our children to be that way. Our children need to be strong, and our children need to be able to endure hardness as a good soldier of Jesus Christ. And there are difficulties. There's nothing wrong. I hurt more when my son cut his hand open. I don't know what stories they told before it started raining on me and after, but my son cut his hand open in 3 different places. When they're doing it, I think I hurt more than he did. But my kids, God in His mercy and a good wife, do your job. Do your job. And we're not going to spend the whole rest of our life grieving because you have a problem. We're going to go on about our business. And what a great God. But it's be strong in the Lord. We're going to have to be strong to do the things God's called us to do. Let's do what God's called us to do. Let's find a way. There's a great God. Let's serve Him with all of our heart. Have a great day. Thanks for spending a few minutes together.